podcast about, and they're saying futurism, neuroscience, singularity, and stuff like that. So why do I say this? I mean, I think people go through the science.
Okay, quick. Moving.
I think people go through their lives trying to accomplish something, trying to activate a reward signal in their own brain. That is the goal of all humans, as far as I can tell. And if we understood how the brain works, and we have the ability to activate that signal more effectively, might sort of disable the trajectory of humanity. These kind of take away the carrots and motivate all people to accomplish bigger things. The bigger thing that humanity is accomplishing is mastering survival. It is a species that is mastering the art of survival and generally gaining power standing in the universe through scientific, technological development, and all the other stuff, philosophy, art plays a role in pretty much all human endeavors. I guess the reason that taking drugs is illegal is because it is one of those tricks to just activate the reward system, accomplishing the actual goal that humanity as a species is programmed to accomplish. Whether they know it or not, they are programmed to accomplish that. Anyways, what do you think about that user Rick Julie or user Braid? How are you guys doing?
Good. UHH. I don't know, haha. Well, I'm not experienced enough to comment on such topics. Nor am I.
Let's see, we had you're right, with an interest in neuroscience.
Sort of.
So why do you want to do chemistry?
I love you. Haha.
What motivated you to do chemistry? What motivates you to
I'd like
learn
to have
all
a
those
better
little...
understanding of chemistry, haha.
Is that what motivated you to do chemistry in general? To have a better understanding?
Yes.
Huh. That's interesting. So you're really a neuroscience fan.
Because as humans we are interested in understand that which we don't understand and know. Correct.
Well, the question is, are you going to figure out how a brain works with chemistry or with computer science? It's going to be a combination, right? But, I mean, what do you think is more important? Why would you go after the chemical component? It's going to be tricky to do podcasts like this.
Not sure. It just interests me more, I guess.
Yeah.
That's extremely difficult to answer.
No, I mean, you should do what interests you more.
I don't want to be Trump.
The brain is an electrical computer, so you could...
Haha,
one. We have Lot Vivian on the line. One of the few female users on site.
Why am I unstable?
D.
There's no way to tell.
Trump's unstable. Quite fitting.
It's actually Timmy that's unstable. He only has 3 wheels. One of them wasn't getting in the way.
Wow, Rick, look at him. How could you?
Yeah, he's basically just flapping in the breeze. really need two-way audio on these robots, and I can just like have conversations with people. I want it pretty bad.
I'm also very interested in technology and that sort of thing. I guess that's why I like sports chemistry. Lean.
Making drugs. Is that what that is? Psychopharmacology? That's making drugs for people's brains. Brain drugs.
It's like the study of the mechanisms related to psychology and neuroscience.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's kind of a relatively non-invasive way to alter the way that your brain computes.
Here, Rick neglects all of it.
An invasive way would be to... This happened to a guy, right? He invasively had like a big stick shoved into his brain. Changes his personality. It's like a classic Psych 101 story about the guy who got
sort of like a frontal lobe lobotomy.
Yeah.
Haha.
He got the peg stuck like into his brain, but he survived it. And he just liked animals after that, and his personality kind of changed. But the good thing about the drug, or
the brain is marvelous.
Psychology is so interesting. Who's Rick?
Lol. Rick is dead. So, what are your specific interests in neuroscience, Rick?
I think that we're all running out of time. It might be interesting to make a copy
Deep
of
stuff,
our
Rick.
brains. Back up our personality so it's not just lost. Everybody's going to do it anyway, but we're right on the edge to do it logically, but you don't have the technology to do it. A few more generations and you will have the technology. But all those personalities are going to be lost until that point is reached.
Cryogenics.
Yeah, I'm actually signed up for that.
I'd do that if it was free.
Well, it's not really that. It's only
This one's a bit rusty.
but it doesn't really
Oh,
work
wow.
that. I mean, it's a reasonable. It's better than nothing to me. It's like better than having no chance. But I'm not sure about mature technology by any means.
Well, it's not a 3D printer.
LMAO. Mental illness, Rick. I know, gives me some ease.
I think.
A chance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's two companies.
I can still talk.
Alcor and I forgot what the other one is. The other one's actually the one that I have. Alcor and another one. It's a little less expensive, and they're a non-profit organization. Somebody can look that up.
Wish they could do it before you died.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on mental illness, Rick?
Mental illness? I think there's a lot of BS in the mental illness space. Like basically, I would say like 95% of people diagnosed with depression don't really need a drug to treat it. Maybe 5% actually do. Because, there's people. But really, what what that depression
Pharma.
is just the and your life sucks. It's like you're working every day, making money, and your life sucks. And if you're not working, then you're just like, might as well be depressed and yeah, we're not made for this. That's exactly right. We're not made to exist in this world, and so of course there's going to be a mismatch, and then the part of your brain that's like checking whether you're accomplishing the mission of humanity is like, no, I don't think so. I don't think you're supposed to be sitting in a cube for 8 hours a day, because it doesn't correlate to what you'd be doing in Paleolithic times. You're like pushing humanity forward, or even arguably now if you're pushing humanity forward. I guess there's some people doing that from the cube, but it's pretty hard. So yeah, you're not going to get that reward signal, and you're going to end up depressed. And then instead of solving the problem, they just give you a drug that tricks your brain into thinking that the problem is solved. So that's depression. So we've cleared that one up. And then there's
your thoughts on autism.
Oh, I was about to go to that one. I mean, I think I'm partially autistic. I think being a little bit autistic is it's just a kind of human.
Asperger's.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just the kind of human being, and it's an extremely valuable one. It's somebody who can sort of disengage from socializing to some extent and use that like mental resource or that computational power and direct it in another direction, like engineering or programming or
I agree.
building stuff. So yeah, those people are gonna, on the engineering front, those people are gonna lead humanity forward. And they evolved for that reason, I would argue. I mean, a society without them is weaker. But you don't need that many of them, and they don't, you know, it's like you can get those jobs done. So having Asperger's is like a 1 in 1,000 chance. So nature basically said, like, 1 in 1,000 of you are going to be this particular engineering brain, and the other...
I don't think it's a hindrance as much as it's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's helpful. It just all depends on what you're doing. So that's why I think people who are trying to like make people not Aspergery, like forget that. Forget teaching them how to be not Aspergery. Just like figure out how to monetize the crap out of it.
Embrace it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the same goes.
Sometimes the social aspects can be frustrating, though. A lot of extremely smart people are autistic.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's just a method of, it's kind of like a genetic, well, I actually don't know if it's genetic, but it's sort of an innate way of programming an individual to like have some abilities that a lot of the population would not. It's interesting to ask like whether it's genetic or if it's I mean, I doubt it's not something that's learned. I would go ahead and rule that out. It's either something that's sort of like hormonally regulated during fetal development, or maybe something that's or just something during fetal development. It doesn't have to be hormones, but it's something that's regulated at that level, or could be some genetic tendencies. Because my dad is a lot like me, and that tends to be just something that's handed down.
Do you have anxiety, Rick?
I think I have more anxiety in social situations than most people have. But I don't generally have anxiety about stuff. Even that emotion is buried so deep, sometimes I don't even know what's going on. I think I think one of the biggest challenges of social situations is just not really naturally vibing with the way that most people vibe.
I had social anxiety and I learned to look around and notice that people actually are not looking at me, etc.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. I have perhaps like social dancing anxiety. And that's kind of like the same. Actually, I learned how to salsa dance. Salsa dancing is a little easier than like regular, just like freestyle dancing, because there's a person that you're dancing with, and there's like a transaction. There's a protocol, there's a transaction, there's a person that you're working with, and the focus is just between the two of you. If you're just like flopping around on the dance floor, to me that's actually more challenging, because there's no protocol. You're just thinking like, what are people thinking of me? They're actually not thinking about you. It's true. They don't give a crap really. But for some reason, it feels more exposed to me. But anyways, yeah, I mean, we could talk about other mental abnormalities. I think most of them that are being treated shouldn't really be treated, they should be embraced. Like, people who are bipolar,
ADHD.
they just have like waves of really slow emotion. That's cool, you could use that, like if you're an artist, you know, you can use that to your advantage.
That is true.
A lot of the best artists are, I mean, they got something, a lot of the best artists like have something going on that's like not normal. ADHD, we got a question from Braid, ADHD. That one's actually really common with entrepreneurs. So, if you have ADHD, I would say embrace it, become an entrepreneur.
I think it's very circumstantial. Some people can. Stephen Fry is bipolar. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that I believe that sometimes you need medication, like if your brain is totally whacked. If nature just like turned the dial way off so you just can't operate, I think there are cases where people do need some help. But I'm just saying, most of the ones that I've seen, these people I can tell they're like fairly normal. They just want to make their life better, and they end up going to a doctor, and he ends up giving them a drug. But they could have just as easily just gone to like a life coach, gotten things straightened out. Stephen Fry is bipolar. Who's Stephen Fry?
Haha. Help, I don't know, either.
Help, in 17 hours I have a final, says...
John Fry is an English comedian, actor, writer, presenter, and activist.
Clearly.
UK. Stop driving Trump, please.
And if you're
Hey
autistic,
Rick, can you disable movement on Trump?
I can do whatever I want on Trump, considering that he's...
It's loud.
Yeah, but if I disable
You own
movement,
him, Rick.
he won't really be a robot anymore.
Do it. What? D.
I could just make him, like, super slow.
We are talking with Rick.
So somebody's moving him around too much.
It's really loud. Moving the bot is very loud.
We need like an external mic on these robots. Something we're actually working on.
Why don't you make another channel?
What do you mean another channel?
With a webcam and mic from our PC.
Oh, another channel with the webcam on my PC. Okay, well, I guess I could do that with. All right, let's modify the Trump a little bit. We'll keep Timmy online.
I know it's not relevant to the boss, but you'd have an outlet to talk to us. Hello, I'm about to become a glorified webcam. Lol.
Okay, let's see what we can do here.
Rick, do you paint? We are a glorified webcam. We sound quite different when not on the ground. Rick, do you paint the art in your house?
Most of it I do not.
Ah.
I do paint some stuff. This is just a podcast, so nobody's going to see what we're talking about.
Who painted the wall in the other
But
room?
there's a painting. I did this painting.
Wow, nice. Shit, Mayday, that's not good.
Wait, don't move Trump yet.
Bot down.
Do not move Trump yet.
Lol, who moved?
Whoever just moved
Trump
Trump,
dead.
whoever just moved is fired.
I would NT rely on users listening to you, haha.
I know, I'm in the process of disabling.
Soon, Trump bot down, moved undefined. Ouch.
Alright,
I bot down.
we're inside
Not
Trump
moved.
via SSH.
XE.
Now, we can just change things a little bit.
Enable gamepad controls.
Did somebody make the speed of the bot a parameter? There was talk about that. Driving speed. Driving speed. Nice. Ah, interesting. Well, driving speed 0. Test. totally did not change it.
Webcam.
Totally did not change anything. Alright. By the way, there's a bug. A future reference, there's a bug. That parameter's not going to change anything. I feel like this camera needs to be a little higher. Test 1, 2, test.
Perfect.
Alrighty. Trumpbot converted. Wow.
Now Rick is a cam girl.
He's staring me
Wow.
straight in the face now. It's really creepy.
Haha.
Alright, what were we talking about? Well, I can hear myself.
Tell Trump everything.
Tell Trump everything?
Start
Let's
from
see.
day one.
I believe
So
we
how
were
about the
talking
Comey hearing
about...
tomorrow? Politics.
Oh, politics? You want
No.
to talk about politics?
No, please. EW. Rick's log. Robot date 1333. 545.13. 5. Ha 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 ha.
Thanks for that, Jill.
Ha ha.
Let's see. We could get into politics. I can just imagine like the sound bites. If we do achieve success, sound bites.
No, no, no. Hello, I'm Rick, the sole survivor on board my ship.
I kind of agree with my friend and colleague Theo that politics is mostly, well, the way we perceive it, although it's actually perhaps more important. I gotta close this door. Although it's perhaps more important than it seems, the way we take it in through the media is kind of like a big load of crap. I mean, it's not. It's kind of like entertainment for semi-intelligent people. Something to talk about and something to kind of get into. It's like, well, I know about politics, so I'm a little bit smarter, I'm a little informed. But then there's an undercurrent of control that's probably not super visible to the public, because it wouldn't work as well if it was. So, and it's kind of like, I think it's a very simple thing. I think people with like tons and tons and tons of money.
From Rick.
Well, I don't even know what the Illuminati is. I don't even know what that is, and I don't care. But here's the basic idea. If you've got like tons of money, like if you got like fractions of $1 trillion, if you can control that kind of money, then you probably have pretty good amount of power on this planet. Whether anybody's got like a figurehead.
$1 trillion.
Yeah, very
That's
small
exactly
fraction.
Law.
Let's see, we have a comment here. What was that comment?
Spoon says, do you welcome your new robot overlords? Think about it. Your machines. Humans already are machines. I mean, it started out, humble beginnings from an RNA molecule, which actually looks more like a machine. Really odd, wiggly machine. From that humble RNA molecule to a bacteria, to a prokaryotic cell, to a worm, to a fish, to a frog, to a rat, to a human. This is the evolution of a machine. And now the machine has gotten to the point where it can make other machines with its evolved
Do you welcome your new, more efficient machine
intelligence.
overlords? The robots are going to take over and nobody will have jobs. Deep, gonna need popcorn for with.
You know, we've talked about this before, Jill, but I think we're all in agreement. You start making friends with the
Rick
robots
only
now.
thinks deep.
Because when humans are basically in a zoo, because they're so outmoded, at least we'll be friends with whatever takes our place as the most intelligent form of life or computation in the universe. Actually, there might already be one of those, but at least we're the smartest that we know of, and that's something.
Rick needs his. What do you do for a living?
I work at a company called Human Longevity, and they use genomics as basically a
Really
form of
long
preventive
humans.
medicine. Yeah, they make long humans. They just keep pushing the boundaries. Genetic research.
Stretching them humans.
You just measure the DNA of the longest humans in the world and keep reinforcing that. Just keep like breeding longer and
Bubblegum
longer human
humans.
beings.
We are all gonna look like Shaq. Merge DNA with Long Cat.
I assume Long Cat is some like
Do you
horrible
mean
meme of an
Another long
actual
thing.
cat. Do you mean Blad?
Mid-2000s meme.
Mid 2000s, okay.
What made you want bots? Nice talking to you, Rick. I'll be back later.
Okay, Brain. It was nice talking to you too. What made you
Would
want
you prefer
bots?
to be immortal?
Kinda. Yeah, having the option of immortality is always a good thing. What do you think, Nighthawk? Would you prefer to be immortal? It's a
No.
two-edged sword.
I know many people would say no.
I think it's nice to have the option.
2K years would be nice though.
The frustrating thing is I believe we're at a
Well,
transition
do you
point.
have the option of dying at your own will?
You do, but you...
Better than no existence after death.
Whoa, we got some echo. You have the option.
Biologically immortal, but not invincibly immortal. Then, yes.
Yeah, biologically immortal.
Life is too short.
Yeah, you could argue that it's
Not enough
short.
time to do the things I would like to do.
You could argue that it's short or that it's long. Compared to Mayfly, it's
Being
like
immortal
super
is
long.
one way to time travel.
Yeah, travel forward. Yeah, the interesting thing about time travel is that physics makes it pretty easy to do. All you have to do is move fast. But you can only go forward in time with that approach. So it's not the most useful thing in the world, but it's kind of interesting. You could just make somebody move fast without killing them. Then that person could go deep into the future. There's no way to get back. But I might just do it. Like, if I had the option, I might just, like, travel deep into the future. Maybe not too far. But deep enough that they'd have, like, super advanced technology. Hopefully they wouldn't blow up the planet. And I would just arrive. You realize if they did blow up the planet, you'd have a serious problem, considering you can't go back. But assuming nobody blows up the planet, you would arrive in this much more advanced civilization, and they'd probably take pity on you. Like, oh, this poor soul. He hasn't been genetically enhanced. He's gonna die.
Well, Rick will be a real-life fry with Bender bots.
A real-life fry?
I wouldn't mind a QTELIGF, the Morlocks would suck though.
I wouldn't mind a cutie, as in the letter
Keep Summer
QT.
safe.
And then something about a girlfriend?
Lol.
This chat's getting really random. I wouldn't mind a cutie Eloy GF. The Morlocks would suck though. Oh, you're talking about that book.
Protect Summer.
What are you talking about, Jill? Is summer going extinct? Is that from the planet slowing down?
Summer is dying. Prodip is referencing Futurama. Jill is mentioning Rick and Morty.
Oh, okay. Rick and Morty.
TV shows. Lol.
You know how the planet used to spin faster? So when
Yes.
we evolved like 5 million years ago, planet was spinning somewhat
And the
faster.
moon was closer. The moon used to be closer too.
Yeah, so
Oh.
I mean, you would think the upshot of this might be
Moon's
that
the rotational energy of Earth.
you would think that would make you want to go to sleep earlier than you should, because the circadian cycle would be like lagging. But I always want to go sleep later than I should, so that doesn't really fit the whole Earth slowing down thing.
I still don't know when you sleep, Rick.
Well, Nighthawk, nobody knows when you sleep. I actually haven't really... Well, we talked about that. I suggested you could just go ahead and stay awake through the night into the day rather than trying to go to sleep at a certain time. And that's a strategy I would recommend for true night owls if you need to get up
I still
early in
sleep
the morning.
during the day.
For a true night owl, if you want to get up early in the day, just make it easy for yourself. Start going to bed around some ridiculously early... Well, you need to go to bed like if you get out of school at 3, you need to go to bed at like 4. And then you just crash, you wake up, and then you stay up all the way through the next school day, and then go to sleep. Problem solved. There's this thing where your eyes are sensitive to ultraviolet, and it resets your circadian cycle, so you probably want like some UV blocker shades when you're walking outside, and maybe a
Cool.
fake
What are
sun
your
lamp.
thoughts on the American education system?
Well, you're basically asking me, why is our system so bad?
There are a lot less distractions at night. We have one.
I mean, I don't know where to start with talking about how bad the education system. It's almost like a hard pill to chew on, because there's so many different things. I mean, everything from like the food to the curriculum, to the building, to the schedule. Like, everything is suboptimal. I don't think they even know what they're trying to accomplish. The goal itself is wrong. So the goal itself, which is to get like high tests on a score, that's already wrong. So you're doomed right from the start. They don't even know what the goal is. And then, even if that was like a viable goal, the way that they're approaching it is like really stupid. You're not. if you want to make somebody just do well on a standard, again, that's a totally stupid goal, but I mean, basically, you take a few hours of the day and do like a Kaplan review for the test, and just keep doing that until you've really mastered the test. But I mean, I would hate to see school degenerate into something that dumb anyways. And school should be something really that sort of prepares you for life. I think the best way to get prepared for life is just start doing what you're going to be doing at the end of it anyways. So the whole idea of like going to classes and studying random junk is, it's not junk, it's actually somewhat interesting stuff, but just going to classes and like learning stuff just for the sake of learning it in general, I think is a not very good approach. If you want to be like a programmer, just learn how to hack code. If you want to be a singer, start singing. If you want to be an artist, start doing art. And if somebody says like, oh no, you need to have like a general foundation so that you can then choose whatever you need to do, that's just not true. You can learn about everything. You can go deep into one subject and it still gives you an opportunity to learn about everything along the way. And if you decide to pivot, you can always pivot, learn about something else. Yeah, that might be it for the podcast.
No. What about robots building robots?
What about
Wow.
robots building robots? Let's see if my podcast is actually recording. Let's just check.
I'm recording, no worries.
That's good because the signal is not, it's only like halfway there. Like, I can see half of the thing, and then it just stopped. That's what I'm preparing for right now by saving it and then starting the project again.
What do you mean by signal?
Okay, I know what happened.
The audio.
I know what happened. I just turned my mic off. It has a button on it. It's easily like pressed by accident. But it was on for part of the time. Alright, mic back on.
Like a reverse butt dial.
Yeah, exactly. Alright, let's see where we are. Maybe that's good that it went off. I may have said something politically unacceptable. I'm recording, no worries. Okay. What about robotics? What about robots building robots? This is the singularity. I mean, what about robots building robots? As I said, humans are sort of robots building robots already. I mean, we're not robots, but we are evolved machines. So what you're seeing now is an evolved machine building another machine. Now, if it goes to the next level, like and the machine that we build starts building another machine, that's cool. I mean, it's just starting to get like highly recursive. But it's difficult to make a machine that's so complex and capable that it can actually build another viable machine. I mean, nature has been working on us for 3 billion years, and it's just now gotten to the point where it actually looks feasible. It took a while.
$3 billion. We can do it in a century. PSH.
I think perhaps we can. I think that's a little optimistic.
A decade.
Well, I kind of wonder, yeah, well, building a machine that builds a machine, what does that mean exactly? Does it have to be intelligent, or do you just mean a machine that's kind of like replacing our hands, and then we use the hand replacement to build the next machine?
That would be a tool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tool until it has its own intelligence. So the real question is, how much do we need to create an intelligence capable of rapidly building another intelligence? Is that the idea? We don't even have that level of intelligence yet. It might come sooner than we think, or it might come later than we think. It's really hard to call. Brain's like really complicated. We have that one example of a truly intelligent device, which is a human brain, and it's super complicated. So we know it can be done, and we know the physics and the chemistry and the biology enough to say that, yeah, we could make something that does what a human brain does. But it's hard to do. It's a big engineering challenge. There's a possibility that there's some kind of shortcut where maybe you could just build intelligence much more easily than actually copying a whole brain. Or it might be that copying a whole brain is actually much easier than trying to build intelligence from scratch. But we'll have to see how that plays out.
I was thinking about this comic where the robots build bird-like drones. http://freefall.persia.com/ff1200/fbo1175.htm. L+.
Comic where robots build bird-like drones. Interesting. Let's check that out.
That is a science fiction staple. Trump bot is the first step towards singularity.
This comic strip kind of reminds me of like music. It's got some music generated there. I think that like artificially generating music and art, that's going to come pretty soon. I mean, that's already starting. But it's sufficiently abstract that you can pretty quickly, you can make a creative algorithm that generates some pretty decent music or art. Can mix in reality with abstraction just like artists do. So that'll come pretty quick.
Agelings.com.
Are you quoting my
You mean sing.
previous project? Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to put that project back online if I had some spare time.
That looked interesting.
Yeah. I thought about it though, and I was thinking...
Lot of people doing similar work.
Yeah, I was thinking I don't really want to cut into what musicians are doing that much anyways. I mean... Well, I've got a robot just like spinning out. What do you guys think? What's the first job to be replaced by robots that's not already replaced by robots?
Driving counts.
Yeah, I mean driving counts, but that's an
Does
easy one.
cashier count? Vehicle
After
seem not
driving,
too
so
far
we all
away.
know driving is going to be the first one. So what's number 2?
Burger flipping.
Burger flipping. Now, by that, do you mean replacing a McDonald's employee completely? Like completely
How about
automating
professions?
McDonald's? Yeah, we can talk about
Like a
professions.
diagnostician.
So after truck driver, after Uber driver, what's the next thing replaced by a robot?
Elevator operators.
Seriously?
Those exist. Yes. Yeah.
You mean a person that pushes the button?
Especially in big cities, still. Yes, in New York. And other places. In my university there is one. Will is
Okay.
missing out.
All right, that doesn't count. We're talking about. I mean, there are these things where you have a person doing it just because it's more fun, like the elevator operator. It just looks cool to have a person, so you put a person there. We need a real job.
Warehousing will be all automated.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Like Amazon's pushing the frontiers on that right
It
now.
already is in some places.
What do you think about
Are
building
largely
construction?
automated.
Do you think that the lowest paying jobs are going to get replaced first, or the highest paying jobs?
Lowest.
Will an accountant and a lawyer be replaced before a construction worker or after?
Lawyer.
I think it's easier to replace a lawyer than a construction worker in most cases. Now,
I'd imagine an accountant would be even easier.
Yeah. Now, if the lawyer has to make a very complex argument, no,
Yeah,
that's
yes,
not going to
like, see
happen.
lawyer.
But a lot of what lawyers do is just like transactional stuff. It's kind of like I need to sell a piece of property, or I need to set up, I need to set up the articles of incorporation for a startup. And with a little bit of intelligence, you could make that process pretty easy and cut the lawyer out completely.
That comic I post just got done covering a robot lawyer. I think as far as professions, surgeons could be out of a job not too far from now.
That's a hard one. I mean, I think that controlling with that level of dexterity.
I think it's more like robots are dollarizing surgeons more. They are now. Not replacing.
Yeah, I mean, I think our project could evolve into that. Our Let's Robot project could evolve into Let's Do Robotic Surgery. And rather than having like Reddit just randomly control it,
His life is dependent on this Raspberry Pi. Lol.
we could have an actual
Judges would be fun
qualified
to replace with
surgeon. We could have a qualified surgeon that just happens to live in the Philippines doing advanced surgery at a fraction of the cost on an individual in America.
Darn, the Raspberry Pi is wigging out. Can you see your creations becoming like it? There he goes.
Like Avatar?
What? Yep.
Have you seen the
I
movie
think that
Surrogate?
setup would go to the top of the line surgeons. Yep. What profession do you see being replaced in the near future, Rick? Barring politics. Surrogate was good.
Surrogate is probably the most direct, like futuristic version of Let's Robot, to me. There are other ways to think about it.
Robot president.
I would like to get into like artificial intelligence and stuff more, which is not what
Let's do it.
Surrogate was about. Does anybody here know about artificial intelligence? Does anybody have practical skills?
Make me an avatar.
Avatar was like super advanced. Biological interfacing. That's pretty hard to do. I used to work on
being
that.
released in the near future, Rick.
I used to work on
Trump
biological
2020.
interfacing from the spinal cord to like man-made systems, which is what Avatar kind of does. It's really hard to do it in practice. Spent about a year making a little flexible electrode that could be placed on somebody's spinal cord without damaging it too much. Manufactured in a clean room.
Neuromancer anyone.
What profession do you see being replaced in the near future? Well, yeah, after truck drivers and Uber drivers. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think the burger flipper probably has a short lifespan, but it's still pretty hard to do. Honestly, I think a lot of those transactional lawyers
Like
are going to
educated
disappear.
professional.
I think HR. What does HR do anyway? I mean, if you replace that with
Nothing.
software, would it have to actually do anything?
Our is crap. Our protect the company.
Well, what does it protect the company from?
Lawsuit. You don't need a whole HR department.
You could build some machine learning that just detects whether people likely threaten the stability of the company based on their jobs. You don't need a whole HR. I mean, that's right, you don't. There's that body head transplant in Russia. Body
That
head
was cool.
transplant?
Carrot, I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. I think it'll end in death.
It's very hard to reconnect.
But at least here that
A
guy
nerve.
is toast. DIDNT, that already happened.
You can like put a
Like a
head,
tail.
you can like take the head off of a dog and put it on
Not
another
yet.
dog. This is what people used to do and call it scientific research. They'd take like one dog's head off and stick it on another dog and then see if they can keep it alive. And you can. But you can't easily connect all of those nerves. So it's just like a really unhappy brain disconnected from a body.
The dude is going to die anyways. They'll try to connect the nerves.
I hear a robot just like freaking out in the other room.
It's Pony.
Oh, it's back up now, right?
Back. We're back.
Alright, I'm gonna go reset the bot that's
Back with Slick Rick.
freaking out right now.
Display https://www. No. Rick Food.
Alright, so where were we? Where were we? I think the server was the issue there.
Brain transplants.
Ah, right, brain transplants. I need to take in some bread and water.
Is this the secret to your intelligence? Bread and water.
No, I just, I went on a trip recently and I haven't, like, replaced all the food. You know how you go on a trip and you come back and, like, everything in the refrigerator is all messed up? I eat a lot of food that has an expiration date, so to speak. I like fresh foods, but fresh foods don't last very long. So no, I just don't have anything. Alright, so we're talking about brain transplants. That's the topic of the hour. There's a Star Trek in their ship. It actually, like, it kind of runs their society. Their brains have atrophied to the point where they can't do it anymore. But they have a system where they have to collect a more advanced brain, and then they run through this process. They basically plug in this thing. It's kind of like the Matrix. It gives them the ability.
Don't make spook sounds. Feed is weird, slow. It sounds fine to me.
Well, let's give it a minute. Maybe it'll come back. Let me know if it's
a little distorted.
A little distorted? Let me see what it sounds like.
But I can understand you.
Test, test. Oh, we need to turn that music off.
Whoa.
Test, test, test. Test. So, yeah, so they get to a point where the doctor has to reattach Spock's brain to his body because his alien species has borrowed it, right, and used it to, like, control their ship. So now it has to be returned to Spock's body. But even at Star Trek level technology, they don't know how to connect it properly. So the doctor has to essentially use, like, Matrix-style programming to program his brain to be able to do it using the alien technology. And it works just long enough for him to get Spock's brain. It's actually, the programming is basically like wearing off before he's done with the procedure, so he almost runs out of time. But he just barely makes it through. He manages to reconnect Spock's brain using, like, a little pepper shaker, and Spock is restored. mean, you have to wonder,
All
like,
we need is a pepper shaker.
perhaps a very advanced tricorder or something like that.
So if our consciousness got transferred to a computer, how would we know if it's us or just a copy of us?
Well, how do you know you're not a copy of you now?
Whoa. Stop that. Lol.
You don't
Die
know.
every night.
Yeah, exactly. You could die every night. You'd never know the difference. All we know is that there's a computation running on our mind. I mean, the computation is our mind, right? So there's a computation that's running
How
right
do you
now.
know that, Rick? Lol.
Actually, I don't even know that, but there's a high probability that that's the way things are. I mean, this is how I get around this whole conundrum of, like, how do you know anything? You can't prove anything. Where's the evidence? You can never have 100% evidence. Yeah, I agree you can't. But you can make
Replace a little bit of
good
your brain while you're
estimation.
conscious until it's all mechanical.
Exactly. I love that argument. Where do you hear that argument? Bad
Ship of
battling? Yeah, the ship of Theseus, and just do it with a human brain. And it makes you realize
Sci-fi book.
you can do it with the computer and it doesn't make you feel all weird, right? But it's the exact same idea. So, what's the consequence of knowing this? The only people who are confused are people who think there's like this atomic immortal soul that kind of floats around separately from the physical body. Those people are confused.
I wish.
It would be pretty cool if that's actually what was happening. There's just no evidence to
If you
support
had a
it.
chance to test it to see if it was you or a copy of you, would you do it, even if there is a chance the actual you died?
I mean, I wouldn't care. Oh, if I had to die, that's another story.
No thanks.
Yeah, no thanks on the death thing.
Like you wouldn't know.
Okay, how about teleportation? Does teleportation count if you kill the original and just make a copy? Do you consider that teleportation if I make an atomic copy of you and then kill the original and just like recycle it?
That's a terrible idea. In order for teleportation to work, the original must be destroyed. But, like, you could also make many copies.
That's Jill's reasoning. You can make copies if you want to. It might get kind of weird.
Well, I'm essentially in Rick's room right now.
I always thought on Star Trek it'd be better if they just made copies because they're likely going to get killed on those planets anyway in real life, so it'd be much smarter to just send some copies off to the planet rather than like erasing the original after sending.
Because if you don't live on, and it's basically something else, what would be the point in the real world?
Well, what's the point in the real world now?
Lol.
I think if there's any point in this life, it's to have an experience. And that,
Not reasoning, it's science. You have to destroy the quantum state of the matter in order to measure it, if you were copying a...
okay, now Jill's pulling the quantum card.
I mean, like, why would anyone
She's
want
pulling
to do
the quantum card. I would argue that you don't have to worry about quantum mechanics too much. As a thought experiment, it's a thought experiment. If you make a copy, and if it does the same computation, that's good enough, even if
It's part of the physics.
you don't use
Just make a wormhole.
quantum teleportation. Just make a wormhole. Physics is just the mechanism that we use to build the computer. But there's different ways to instantiate. You don't have to use the same atoms. So, I mean, the thing about quantum teleportation is it's like you're actually moving the atom to the other place. And that's one way to do it, and it's cool, and it's
Still can't travel
interesting,
fast.
but you don't really need to use all the same atoms. You could just use a different set of atoms.
record all the items. Atoms. But if you don't, you are indistinguishable from any copies.
If you don't, you are...
The speed of light for the information to travel is not much in galaxy scale.
I like how these chats are coming in. It's like...
But would the copy of
just
you have your consciousness and be you, or would it basically just be a different person and you are dead?
That's the beautiful question. Like, when you wake up every day,
Just
are
bridge.
you the same person, or are you like a copy? About every 7 years, your atoms are mostly replaced anyway, so you're already like a copy of yourself. But it takes a long time for it to happen. This
Are you
would, the only difference
you are
is
in
this would be like a
existential
faster copy.
crisis. Yes.
Again, let's get to the point here. It doesn't matter if the atoms are replaced. Are your brain atoms replaced? Maybe they are.
Replaced, but brain cells aren't.
Right, the computation is preserved because the cells basically hold down the fort, even if the atoms are swapped out. So we go back to that ship analogy. As long as you swap those atoms out, as long as you keep the computational structure of the mechanism in place, it doesn't matter if you replace all the underlying parts. So the fact that we just walk around and all of our atoms are getting replaced anyway, pretty much, maybe not all, but most of them, already proves that the concept of just copying somebody is fine. There's no like theoretical problem with it. It's just technologically really hard to do. And that person would be just as valid as you are.
I am invalid.
In what way, John?
There is a thought experiment called the Chinese brain.
How does that work?
What did China do now?
The Chinese brain. Chinese brain.
The Chinese doing the work of neurons.
Oh, interesting. Okay. You know how many neurons there are? I think it's 11 billion.
86 billion.
Okay, 86 billion.
It's highly hypothetical.
So you need several Chinas. Okay. So how does the thought experiment play out? One person per neuron, and you make one big like super brain?
1 quadrillion connections between neurons.
Yeah, that's a lot of connections. So you use the population of China to make a much bigger... I like this analogy. You use the population of China multiplied by like 20 or something. Each person is responsible for being a neuron. I don't know why you're using people rather than computers to do this, but let's just say each person represents a neuron, and then they have to have the same connectivity pattern as a brain. And they act as like one gigantic, really slow brain, all combined together. I wonder, like, what's the point of this analogy, other than just like making something that's super inefficient, but kind of interesting? I mean, it brings up the point. I don't know why all of you are being blocked, if you're all using bad words at the same time or something.
Neurons operate at 200 Hz. Human neurons would operate at... The China brain argues that consciousness is a problem for functionalism.
That consciousness is a problem for functionalism? Hold on, I'm going to get another piece of bread. Let's come back to this. I think we've got a philosopher on the line.
Lol. Block's Chinese nation presents a version of what is known as the absent qualia objection to functionalism because it purports he. I'm just copying Wikipedia. Can't lick it, I can tell. qualia. Because I just said so.
Alright, I think we got a philosopher here who asked the question, who's dropping the philosophy jargon here?
Dr. Wikipedia.
The China brain argues that consciousness is a problem for
Dr.
functionalism.
Professor Wikipedia.
That's what I'm working toward. Professor Wikipedia. Dude, I could just write all the stuff that I think in Wikipedia and make it real.
You should write a book.
What do you mean by the China brain argues that consciousness is a problem for functionalism? Why don't we just talk about consciousness for a second, because I hear so much crap about this. Or even better, the one I like the most is free will. Like, people think that free will is something that is complex or requires discussion or needs some kind of philosophical debate around it, or that it's like magical, but it's not. It's none of those things. Free will is just the ability to do a thing,
I've
right?
written about free will way too much for English.
Well, what did you write about it, Nighthawk?
Well, they ask, is there free will? But what is free will? Now you've got to pick a position.
Usually people have a hard time defining what it is to start with. But, I mean, I think we can keep it pretty simple here. You know if you have free will or not, because basically you have a thing that you want to do, right? You're a machine, you've got like, there's a plan in your machine that is your mind that kind of guides the machine that is your body to do things. It has objectives, it has emotions, which are the higher level goal setters, and then the kind of the actuators at the end are the like the raw intelligence, and obviously your ability to move around and stuff kind of gives you the ability to kind of play out the things that you want to do. So you have things that you want to do, and then you have the ability to kind of execute those things that you want to do. And if you build a robot or a computer or whatever, it also has things that it, quote, wants to do. Its emotions are not as complex as ours, but it still has like things that it wants to do.
That goes into the time question. If you can go to the past or future by traveling at light speed, how can you have free will? No. But the things you want to do are dependent on your previous experiences.
Oh, this is interesting. So you want to talk about how time travel relates to free will. Yeah, but that doesn't really matter. Even if your brain's a deterministic machine, you still have the perception of free will, which is all that really matters, right? So assume that the universe is fully deterministic, whether we understand it or not, and whether it is or not, just thought experiment. Assume that the universe is fully deterministic and fully measurable. Then you can measure the initial state.
You cannot have free will right now if the future is written, so it is only an illusion.
Well, yeah, but you actually still have... If you accept that people have free will right now, which I do. I mean, if you want to make the claim that nobody has free will because the universe is deterministic, that's okay. You just define free will a little differently than I would. My definition of free will is like, it's, for example, it's the ability of a person to make a choice. And to me, it's a little more than that. I mean, to me, just personally, it's like nobody's got like a gun to your head forcing you to do something you don't really want to do. But I mean, it's the ability to kind of make that choice with your own computation.
I can say I have free will as it's what I want to do, but from an outside perspective, it's deterministic.
Yeah, what I'm saying is don't worry about it being deterministic. Of course it's deterministic. trajectory through time and space. So that's your path. It may all be deterministic, but it's still, it's like cool. There's nothing wrong with it.
What if there is just a bunch of different pre-written futures?
It doesn't really matter if they're pre-written futures, because you can only experience the now. Whether there are, so whether the future is deterministic or not, the only thing you can experience is the now anyway. So what difference would it make? Is anybody really worried about whether the universe is deterministic or not in terms of what our experience is traveling through it?
I get that.
I mean, in practical terms, even if it's deterministic, it's really hard to measure, so it's unlikely that somebody's going to, know what's happening in the future anyways. In quantum mechanics, things perhaps go back in time, like certain particles go back in time.
Yes.
That is really odd. I'd like somebody to really explain it. It seems that by the time you get down to quantum mechanics,
They also
all bets are off.
Observed.
Yeah. If I had to make a
Like
bet,
they are constants.
well, yeah, I don't think they're conscious. But I think they give rise to consciousness, but I don't think the particles themselves are conscious. I wonder where the particles came from. I wonder where physics came from. Not really physics, but reality itself, right? Physics came from people, but where did that reality that we talk about, that we model it with our physics, where did that reality come from?
The particles also come in and out of our reality.
Particles also come in and out of our reality.
They jump in and out. This is slowly becoming one. They come in pairs.
Doppler for stoners. What is a Doppler?
I am not a stoner. Seum is censored. It's your censor
okay.
all.
Okay. Censor's pretty cool, huh? The censor is for investors. Are there any investors watching right now? Censors to keep your kids safe from strings of characters, because we know that is a danger.
50 doges. Spooky words.
For 1 Bitcoin, I will disable the filter today. For $150,000, I will shut the filter off completely.
I've invested like $2 in bits.
Oh, thanks, Nighthawk. We appreciate that.
That was a while ago. 70 doges is my final offer.
What's a Doge worth right now? I've got a little bit of Doge. It's worth like 1 cent or something.
Like 0.00005. Definitely worth.
Why is it when you start talking about...
Checked my 20K were worth $40.
How do we start talking about a human brain and not on the universe? It's all kind of connected, isn't it?
Lol.
Because this is a story that we live every day.
Yes, it is.
Every day we live this story of, I have no freaking idea where the laws of physics themselves came from that sort of, combined with matter and energy, raw material, ended up evolving into my consciousness and my emotions and my experience that I feel every day. I go to work and work on some retarded, for the most part, people work on some ridiculous project it's like a piece of a piece of a piece of a thing. And they respond to these emotions that were programmed into them when they were basically reptiles to accomplish these things. That's probably like 80% of it. 20% of it evolved in later when we were like more complex societies. So we do have these emotions that guide us toward pushing humanity forward as a whole and all that. But we respond to these emotions, and we're living in this just
Death to humans.
bizarre situation, having no idea of where we came from or what we're really doing. But we know that we feel these emotions, and the emotions push us to do something with our lives. Literally, just do something. We get bored of pretending
In that
to.
regard.
Yeah, religion is like, religion is a powerful tool. What other species has evolved the concept of religion? I would say religion. Ants? Oh, that's actually really interesting. I would kind of agree with you on that.
I heard that the Earth is rotating when the sun rises at 4:30 now.
Why would you say that ants have evolved religion? Because that's actually a very deep statement. Or it's a joke. But if it's a joke, I'm gonna take it deep.
So do you believe there is just non-existence after death?
Yeah, one time we had this huge tank of
A
helium.
bit of both. A joke can be truthful.
Hold on a second. I'm gonna record this podcast and come back. Like save it and come back in 1 minute.
Biology is absolved. Where does your data go when you are talking with your replacement? Meat bag. Same with the chemical interactions in your brain that give you consciousness.
Okay, we're back. So let's talk about the ants, because that's a beautiful analogy. I listen to E.O. Wilson on NPR sometimes. He studies ants. I mean, he discovers like really interesting stuff. But to say that ants have a religion, that's really a beautiful analogy, and it's perfect in a sense. Because ants have guidelines that are programmed into the society that no single ant is really aware of, but the hive, when they follow those guidelines, it has a certain beneficial behavior. So for example, if I want to show
I
that
would say make robots great again, but that would imply that they aren't great already.
that was random. So, like, if an ant, okay, here's the thing that ants do that kind of demonstrates that they don't really always know what's going on as an individual. Like, one will push a stick in one direction, then another will come by and push a stick in the other direction, and then, let's say it's ant A and ant B. Ant A pushes it one way, ant B pushes it the other. Ant C comes along, pushes it the other way again, and ant D comes along, pushes it back the other way, and they're just kind of pushing it back and forth. And the stick's not really going anywhere. But for some reason, they've just got a signal in their brain, push the stick that way. Now that's kind of an edge case. It's not what's supposed to happen, but it does happen because the ant's not.
Canada Chanel on YouTube. Amazing stuff.
Nice.
All I know is if you cut their legs shorter or extend them, they won't make it to their nest.
Yeah, they use a form of dead reckoning apparently. So if you change the length of those legs, it actually throws their adjustments off, which is pretty cool. It's not very nice to do that to the ant, but the funny thing is kids will do those really funny things like pushing a stick back and forth, but then they also have these sophisticated behaviors like building the air ventilation systems and all that stuff, but those are a function of the hive as a whole. So that super intelligence arises out of the hive as a whole, but not out of the individual. But they also are okay with sacrificing themselves for the good of the colony, and they really don't even think about it that much when they do. That's just the way that they are. So what religion is kind of a hack. It's an evolved system, so it's not something that you could say was really thought out exactly, but it's an evolved system, often effective.
Actually have suicide bombers.
Suicide bombers, yeah, exactly. I mean, how do you think most suicide bombers justify what they're doing? Is probably with a religion, right? Because otherwise it would seem like a waste. But I mean, what the religion does is it's sort of a mental trick to make people act for the quote good of society rather than the good of the individual. However, obviously sometimes they're not even acting for the good of the society, they're just acting by that rule. Sometimes the religion itself kind of gets carried away and ends up manipulating people in a way that's not beneficial for anybody. But I mean, it is certainly a very strong force that could be used for good or bad. I find it interesting that some people can believe it, even though it's like so hard to believe logically.
Another way is to see individual as part of a single organism.
Another way is to see individual as part of a single organism.
Did you say can or can't believe?
Yeah, I think whether we like it or not, we already are kind of a superorganism, humans. I like to think of it as a slime mold, but it's actually more sophisticated than that. We're sort of an engine for figuring stuff out. And
there is a global an ant isn't an animal, but an ant colony is.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. The ant colony is really the animal. Of course, not according to the technical semantics, but by any other measure. The queen is a reproductive organ. The males are like the sperm darts. This is how E.O. Wilson looks at it too. I'm kind of using some of his thought pattern. It's like one organism, and the workers are a defensive mechanism. Pretty interesting. It seems to be the trajectory that humans are going down, more or less, with highly specialized individuals functioning more like a superorganism.
What were you going to say about helium earlier?
Oh yeah, somebody was asking about death, and I was saying I feel relatively certain that when the lights go out because...
My hive is named San Francisco.
Yeah. We had this big tank of helium because we were having a wedding. I mean, one of my siblings or somebody was having a wedding, and we had this massive tank of helium and these balloons, and we're filling up balloons with helium. So of course everybody's like sucking massive amounts of helium out of the balloon so they can talk higher. And I decided to just like take it to the max and just like fill my entire respiratory system like 100% with helium, which by the way is not a good idea. And I passed out while I was sucking on this balloon.
No, it's not, huh?
And the only thing I remember is sucking on a balloon and then waking up to my dad shaking me. And there was absolutely nothing in between. And I think that that is essentially what death is without the waking up part. It's a simple assumption to make. You just...
Your comprehension. Like you can't remember it.
What if it is just beyond your... Well, if you can't remember it, then... That's a good question. What would your past be if you could not remember any of it whatsoever? it's a different life, but I mean, he still has short-term memory, I guess. I don't know if you can exist without any memory. I mean, if you have no memory state whatsoever, you would no longer compute information in a way that really did anything. But I believe he still has, like...
I believe in a religion, but it's also hard to comprehend how we came from nothing.
Well, does a religion answer the question of where things... I know they try to, but do they really answer those questions anyways? It just changes the question into another equally hard question.
Before a god had to be something anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Then the question changes to, like, where did God come from, which is equally
It's
hard.
just a loop.
Yeah. But it could be. I mean, I'm not ruling out the possibility that some, quote, alien, or, you know, whether you want to call God an alien or not, it's up to you. But if it's not from this planet, you could call God an alien. I mean, but it doesn't matter. I mean, there could be some creative force or intelligence outside of anything we understand, for sure. Of course there could.
Aliens, I can believe in a god of sorts, but I don't prefer like organized religion.
Don't prefer organized religion. Yeah, who does, right? Very few. Very few of the people I know prefer organized religion, but the funny thing is, like, I guess most of the world prefers organized religion. I think religion got programmed into people's DNA as like a thing that they do. I think it's actually part of it, so it's only a minority that don't accept it. Just like the ants. But it's always going to be at conflict with just pure logic.
Organized religion offers more than the $s recognize. I just like to think that maybe death is just completely beyond our comprehension.
Hopefully. It is a nice thing to hope for. Because no one wants to disappear. But I think that's generally how death operates. I think you just kind of disappear. But if you solve this technology problem, then you don't have to disappear anymore. That's what I'm saying. If you want to do something about it, you can do something about it. If you just hope...
Death is the admission price of life.
Yeah. It's a solvable problem, but if all you do is hope... I mean, the Egyptians kind of had the right idea. I mean, they were like, okay, I don't want to die. Let's do something about it. Let's figure out how to preserve a human being. They invested so much in trying to figure it out. They were pretty smart, right? The Egyptians were at the top of their game, right? They were the smartest thing on the planet, probably, right? The smartest civilization on the planet. They were at the top of their game. They were trying to figure out how not to die. They hadn't invented a story that would sort of placate them into not worrying about it anymore. They wanted to figure out how not to die. And so they gave it their best shot. But they didn't have the technology. They were just way too... It's not like they were just, like, not smart enough. They lacked, like, the foundation. You would need, like, a foundation on top of a foundation on top of a foundation on top of a foundation with a machine built with help of a machine, built with help of a machine, built with help of a machine, to get to the point where you could finally conquer death itself. And they were just too far away. But they tried with really bad methods. And we have mummies that actually did kind of stick around, at least physically, but they stuck their brain through a straw and threw it away because they didn't know that was important.
I never knew that's what they were doing.
It's not just the, it's not just the kings and the queens. Actually, all of them were trying to become immortal. As I understand it, the most expensive mummifications were the kings and the queens, but actually everybody tried to, like, do the ghetto style of mummification if they could, to kind of push beyond that light.
Makes them much more interesting to me.
Yeah.
Would you rather go to a heaven that's nothing like life how we know it, or be immortal on earth?
It all depends on what the heaven is, right? It's sort of question and answer. I think, over to sort of build our own heaven, and we're going to live in that artificial consciousness. We're already like trying to build an artificial world. What part of the world is left? Even now, just like the fact that I live in a house with air conditioning and food that I just like buy off a shelf, I don't even know how it's created really. I just like give somebody this information, which the money is now just information.
Hallucinogenic drugs like LSD.
Nah. I mean, one day I might try that when I no longer care whether my brain is like intact. I might be getting closer there than I think, to the point of not caring. What are we talking about?
Heaven.
Oh yeah, heaven. Heaven's a cool concept. That's like another thing that we should strive to achieve, even though religion... It's another one of those things on the list that religion promises to deliver to you, even though it won't really, and we could strive to achieve it technologically and actually do it. But we're too busy, like, using Facebook to figure out how to create heaven for ourselves. Which is funny.
Law. You should watch the movie Swiss Army Man.
What's that about? I haven't seen that one.
Everything. Life.
Ah, cool. Yeah, I like movies like that.
The only thing I like about religion is that it makes people that can believe in it not afraid of death.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how it solved that problem? There's a couple ways to solve the problem. You could either genetically, like nature has a few options. It can genetically alter things, or it can do it with... The cool thing about humans is they have like this programmability. So it's like we have our software that's configured when we're, whatever, when we're young mostly. We have that software, and then we have the hardware that we have no control over. And that could be fixed theoretically in hardware, right? You could actually create an organism that had no fear of death, but the probability of like having that evolve, you know, the ants have done it, but it's generally like unlikely unless you evolve truly as a society. It actually says,
What would be the will to live then?
what would be the will to live? Again, that's a parameter that has evolved because we have not evolved as just units of an organism. We've evolved, I mean, a lot of our evolution is based on, individual survival. And that will to live is basically the parameters evolved into our brain that say, hey, as an individual, you need to make sure you don't get killed. Because that's going to make you more successful, and it makes a society more successful most of the time. But there are these exceptions where it's more a society, at the society level, that society is actually more powerful if individuals are willing to give up their lives for the society. So now you have this conflict with this deeply evolved sense of I need to preserve myself with this new requirement that you need to preserve the society, and they can come into conflict. And religion is just one way of reconciling that, and like creating this system of thought where you can kind of cover both bases. You keep yourself alive as much as you can, but if it comes into conflict with these hard and fast rules laid down by religious beliefs, belief in God, or however they're encoded, then you can make an exception. And the way that you shut off that instinct that's telling you you must survive is you tell a lie. One fib. It's one little fib, which is that you have an immortal soul anyways. So don't worry about if you get killed, because you're going to keep going. So you shut that signal off, and then you can have sort of cognitive dissonance of respecting your own life, but also in certain cases being willing to give it up and that makes very powerful societies. And then you see these highly religious societies dominating the planet because they have this power that non-religious societies don't have. They have the power to, the willingness, the power that comes from the willingness to give your life up for the society itself.
I fib to myself by thinking that they'll make sufficient scientific progression in my lifetime to keep me alive. Lol.
You might just be the generation that makes it, Nighthawk.
I want you dead.
I actually think you're pretty close to the generation that may get cryogenically preserved without losing all of your memory. And then, like, some more generations after that, they might figure out how to actually not die at all.
They will only keep the super rich alive.
The cost will come down just like it's just like buying a laptop. First laptops are just for rich people, and then same thing with immortality. Immortality is just like a laptop. First it's like only for rich people, and it's all janky. Pretty soon, it's like everybody has one. It doesn't cost anything. Yeah. True immortality is a little bit scary. Because, I mean, you want somebody to try to switch off something that's really wrong.
Rick will make me rich.
Yeah, we're working on it. By the way, if you are an accredited investor, we are offering shares of the company only to accredited investors. Or if you'd like to do something through WeFunder, we could arrange that at a lower price.
If we are cryogenically, would a body transplant allow us? I will send you a load of bread. Frozen.
Excellent.
4 shares.
Bread for shares? Yeah, I could give you 1/10,000,000th of the company for several loaves of bread, probably.
Lol. I'll take it.
Yeah, we're doing a stock split, so we'll be able to do that pretty soon. If we are cryogenically, I assume you mean if we are cryogenically frozen, would a body transplant allow us to be brought back to life if the death wasn't an issue with our brain? Yeah, that's exactly the idea. As long as your brain is still intact, then if we have sufficient technology, and the brain doesn't even have to be really working, it just has to be, the information just has to be preserved. And then using like very advanced technology, we could bring back your consciousness. I mean, it's all about having fun, right? It's like the fun stops when you're dead. So the whole idea is you can have some more fun if you didn't die. Maybe another way to look at it is, I mean, and you could question this. You know, maybe we're just kind of like, death is just a way of freeing up the atoms so some other consciousness can have its experience. Is there anybody on the line? I think the talking chat people have...
Yes, we're here.
Okay.
But I have nothing to say, Pete.
I think we've reached the limits of reality here. We're talking about some big concepts. Running into walls at the very edges of that which is consciousness and existence.
Do you think being brought back to life would even be viable due to overpopulation?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, how long could you keep that up? How long could you keep up immortality without just overpopulating? I mean, you definitely end up spreading the different planets to make it not as bad.
Well,
But,
here's the possibility of a sort of virtual existence.
yeah, you could kind of scale down and run more efficiently. Just kind of run on a computer.
When I read about it, freezing a single cell isn't a problem.
Yeah, that's right, Nighthawk.
Stopping reproduction be the answer, or just not being immortal be the answer. Just that freezing the brain doesn't work, no control.
Again, it kind of depends. You can freeze a very small brain, I mean, there are some animals that can survive the freezing process because that's what they've evolved to do, right? Or at least virtually being frozen. You might have to look this up, but I mean, more or less, it's like a frog or a fish. They live in the Arctic, so they have to survive these extremely cold temperatures, and essentially, the water in their body doesn't crystallize because they have the equivalent of antifreeze in them, but they drop down to freezing levels, and pretty much everything shuts down. And then when the temperature comes back up, everything starts running again.
Do they age while frozen?
No, I don't think so, because I mean, if your cells aren't active, they're not really going to age. It's kind of like, you know, if your car's not running, it doesn't get more miles on it, you know. Now, they might age just a little bit. Same thing with your car. Technically, yes, your car does age a little bit even when it's not running, but it's at a much slower rate.
The metabolism goes to like 0.01%.
Yeah, there we go. We have an expert. Pro tip.
Mr. Wikipedia.
Yeah, life does some crazy stuff. It's invented a lot of things.
Canada teaches that crap in junior high.
Alright, guys. I think that's it for the podcast. That was episode 1 of the Rickcast. Episode 1 of the Rickcast. Once we hit the walls of the universe and everything,
When is episode
that's when
2?
you know it's the end of the show. It'll be coming out sooner than you think. Alright, good night, folks.
How often will... Thanks, Rick. Oh no. Where do you plan to put this up? HMM, I'll have to see where independent podcasts go normally. wonder if I just put it in the iTunes store.
So you can destroy that drive. Wall is live. NSAP.